In the dark and dreary streets of Arkham, there lurked a creature of nightmare, a being of such depravity and corruption that even the bravest of men trembled at the mere mention of his name. He was known as the Toe-Touching Bandit, a fiend who preyed upon the unsuspecting citizens of the city, stealing their possessions and leaving them with a twisted sense of violation. His true name was never known, for he was a man shrouded in mystery, his past as elusive as the smoke that curled from the cigarette he constantly smoked. He was a tall and lean figure, his face gaunt and haggard, his eyes dark and soulless. His hair was greasy and unkempt, and his skin was pallid and clammy, as if he had just risen from the grave. But it was not his physical appearance that struck fear into the hearts of men, it was the way he moved, with a fluidity and grace that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. He would slip into a victim's home undetected, and before they knew it, he would be standing before them, his hand outstretched, his fingers twitching with anticipation. It was said that those who looked into his eyes would be frozen with fear, unable to move or even scream, as he reached out and touched their toes, stealing their valuables and leaving them in a state of shock and confusion. Many had tried to capture the Toe-Touching Bandit, but all had failed. He was too quick, too cunning, and too elusive. The police had given up on catching him, and the citizens of Arkham had learned to live in fear of his presence. But there was one man who was determined to bring the Toe-Touching Bandit to justice, a detective by the name of Howard Phillips. He was a man of great intellect and determination, and he had studied the bandit's methods and habits for years. He knew that the key to catching him was to understand his past, to uncover the secrets that had driven him to become the monster he was today. Phillips had spent countless hours poring over old records, interviewing witnesses, and piecing together the bandit's history. He discovered that the bandit had been born into a life of poverty and abuse, and that his only escape had been to turn to a life of crime. He had been a gifted thief, and had quickly risen through the ranks of the criminal underworld. But as he grew older, he had become more and more twisted, his mind consumed by a desire for power and control. He had become a master of manipulation and deception, and had used his talents to become one of the most feared criminals in Arkham. Phillips knew that he had to be careful, for the bandit was a dangerous and unpredictable foe. But he was determined to bring him to justice, and he knew that the key to doing so was to get inside his mind, to understand the demons that drove him. One night, as the Toe-Touching Bandit watched the smoke from his cigarette dissipate through the air, he reflected back on his childhood and the memories flooded back. The memories of the abuse and neglect he faced, the feeling of hopelessness, and the constant need to escape. He realized that he had become a monster, and the only way to escape the cycle of abuse was to end it. As he put out his cigarette, he made a decision to turn himself in and pay for his crimes. The next day, he walked into the police station, and Howard Phillips was there to arrest him. It was the end of an era, as the Toe-Touching Bandit was finally brought to justice. But the city of Arkham would never be the same again. For years to come, the citizens would remember the terror that he had brought upon them, and the stories of his twisted deeds would be passed down from generation to generation. Phillips had finally caught his quarry, but the cost had been high. He had lost a part of himself in the pursuit of the Toe-Touching Bandit, and he knew that he would never be the same again. As the bandit was led away in chains, Phillips couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness for the man he had brought down. He knew that the bandit had been a victim of his own circumstances, and that in another life, he could have been a different person. But as he watched the bandit being taken away, he knew that justice had been served, and that the city of Arkham could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The Toe-Touching Bandit was gone, and the nightmare was finally over. The end of the story was a bittersweet one, as the city of Arkham was finally at peace, but the cost of it was high, and the memories of the Toe-Touching Bandit would forever remain in the minds of the people who lived through it, as a reminder that even the darkest of deeds can be brought to light.